Welcome back, guys. All right, here's an encore. So, some things are better left unsaid, right? You know, for the most part, people know better than to debate sensitive topics with friends and family, with whomever, namely politics and religion, because of how subjective these beliefs and experiences can be and just are to a person's life. They're just complicated for all kinds of reasons, right? And of course, there's also talk about personal finances that can lead to judgment and jealousy related issues. And I don't know, things like deep insecurities and traumas are arguably the most sensitive ones to discuss with many people, right? However, there's one that can also be seen as contentious and quite divisive as well, at least from my perspective, right? So, personally speaking, I'm of the opinion that AI will do more harm than good. Just my view, my take. And mostly because of, reasons that have to do with human greed. I've long held this firm belief. It's not something new here. I've seriously, accepted and believed in this prior to, the emergence of ChatGPT, Gemini, and still haven't really changed much of my outlook on this issue today, especially after just analyzing, a lot of empirical data, things that we can really objectively measure when it comes to this, and like the impact of AI on layoffs already, the job market. And I looked at first-hand information, second-hand information. I looked at it from many different angles. So anyway, one day an old friend of mine asked about my opinion on the impact of AI on job security and pretty much related things. So I immediately explained my position, my opinion in full detail. I did listen to his as well, to be fair. And at the end of the discussion, I told him rather curtly that I don't really ever want to talk about this topic again. All right? In that kind of tone, in that kind of manner. So I tried to convey to them that, this specific topic, this particular topic is just sensitive to me and something that pretty much bothers me right now, today. So I assumed he understood. I mean, I tried to be transparent and blunt about it so that he could take the situation seriously. Uh, you know, I wasn't really joking about the situation. I didn't explain my view about the situation in a neutral manner or even a positive way, right? I made it really obvious that I didn't like this topic. I didn't like this issue. I shared, situations related to it and why, it bothers me or disturbs me, right? I was really clear about it. But months later, we were having another conversation about different topics, right? When suddenly he just again randomly decided to just assert his opinion about AI on jobs, just out of nowhere. Like I never brought this up. He just brought this, in the middle of our conversation. It just totally came out of nowhere. And I suppose he did it simply because even though we had already discussed this issue before, and I had already warned him not to bring it up, he just assumed it was okay. Okay, it was just fine to remind me of his point of view, just because he's into tech. It's, a deep interest of his, a hobby, and he's also worked in the field for many years. So it was at that, very point, where I don't know, I just realized or felt that I was being disrespected and ignored, especially because I had already explicitly, told him that I knew specific instances of people who were already directly just affected by this very issue. And that included people who work in the field of tech, right? As tech leads, people who work with data science and machine learning, training AI. So, you know, I just seriously felt that this individual, this person, you know, this guy who was once my friend for many years, just prioritize his own personal beliefs and values about this topic, about this question, over my views and feelings. And in a way, I just felt violated, disrespected again. And like he just stepped on my boundaries, like didn't give a shit. So, what can I say? As a consequence, I just stopped being friends with him, you know? Uh, so here's the lesson from all this. When someone tells you to, stop or refrain from discussing something that's just sensitive to them for, whatever reason and whatever the heck that issue is, just do it. Like, respect the boundaries. Don't impose your BS views onto other people. It's not right. It's not cool. Not all of us are gonna accept it. Boundaries are boundaries. That's why they're there. So no matter what you think of them, and just other people's boundaries in general, you still need to learn to respect them. That's just part of life. If you don't want to do that, then don't be surprised when someone blocks you or stops talking to you, right? Or doesn't want to be around you anymore because you were rude and you try to again just really impose or push down your ideology, your beliefs, your values, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're trying to impose it, shove it down people's throats, basically. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.